All right, well, it's 1:02. Thanks again for everyone for being here with us today. I'm Alfred Sanchez. I'm the president and CEO of the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce, and we really have a truly wonderful Thursday roundtable today, Women Leaders in 2020. Um, the roundtable today is brought to you by our Chamber's Banking and Finance Committee, led by Gladys Reed and Lucy Nunez, who are here with us today. Let me begin today by thanking our presenting sponsors, Avila Rodriguez Hernandez Mena and Ferry, LLP, and our supporting sponsors, Pacific National Bank and U.S. Century Bank. Thank you for making this possible. Today, we sit in truly a momentous time in history. We just elected our first woman county mayor, Daniela Levine Cava. We just selected the first woman president of Miami-Dade College, the largest college in the nation, 135,000 students. It's incredible. So it's fitting that we hear today from some other inspiring women leaders, captains in their industries. And I look forward to hearing about their inspiring journeys to their mantle of leadership and the challenges that they're facing today, as we all are in this taxing pandemic environment. Speaking of the pandemic environment, there are many businesses out there. We're a small business town that are facing challenges, and the Chamber has really pivoted to help those small businesses. We propped up a help desk or call center called GMCC Cares. This is a group of our staff members who have been trained in helping getting you the help you need through the relief programs, applying for loans, applying for your forgiveness of the PPP program, et cetera. And there are many other relief items available out there. If you are a small business and need help, please go to GMCC Cares. I hope that the staff can plop the link to that in the chat. But please go there and avail yourself of some of the great programs that we have. One of them, we've teamed up with Career Source South Florida to administer grants. These are grants, not loans, of up to $10,000 in the layoff aversion fund that they have created. We have about $500,000 that we're administering. We've already given out a $500,000, and these are reimbursement grants up to $10,000. I said reimbursement. That's important. You have to be a small business in business for 2 years, no more than 50 employees in Miami-Dade County. And these reimbursement grants are set up to really repay you for the expenses that you have made. So you have to have the receipts to pivot your business and make it safe so that your employees can get to work and stay working. So go to the link. I'm sure our staff will put it into the site as well, but go to the Chamber site to look into that and see if you qualify. Listen, before I turn it over to Gladys, we want to run through some of the logistics. I know you all are old hats of this now, but all of your microphones are muted. We have the chat box open so that you all can exchange ideas and share information and network. That's part of being part of the Chamber. If you do have questions for our speakers, we ask that you use the Q&A function. Put your question there because that's where we're going to be looking to float those questions up to our panelists. If you're not in there, you're not going to get asked. So please put it in the Q&A. It's my pleasure now to introduce our chair of the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce, Banking, and Finance Committee, a great friend of mine. She and I have done a lot of work with the Chamber together when I was a member. She is herself an incredible woman leader. She's the Senior Vice President of Ocean Bank's Wealth Management Department, and she's played an extremely active role in her local community with the Chamber, the United Way, and currently she's the chair of the Center for Financial Training. She's a founding member of the C-Suite Forum, and she's also very active in the Women's Council for Habitat for Humanity. Gladys, you're a friend, and it is truly a pleasure to turn over the floor to a great leader like you.
Thank you, Alfred. I can say I knew you back then when you were in the executive committee, right? And right. Now you're doing a great job in challenging times in 2020. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm broadcasting live from South Beach. No, not really, right? I wish, wishful thinking, but I love the logo of my company, Ocean Bank. Thank you so much for joining us today. You know, our Women Leaders event, I've been involved with the committee now for 4 years, has always been one of our most popular one. And I'm not saying that just because I'm a woman and being a little biased. Men have come out to me through the years and said, you know, how inspiring it's been. There's always some words of wisdom. I know that we've assembled a great group of diverse women leaders from diverse backgrounds and their roles, very different, each what they do, but I'm sure there's going to be some common synergy as well, including our moderators. So I'm super excited about the event today. I also need to do a couple of shout outs in recognition and recognize certain folks. Thank you to the Banking and Finance Committee for some of the ideas and some of the women names that you threw out. There were so many great ones. Thank you so much. Irby Blanco True from Iberia Bank and our Industry Growth Chair. Thank you always for your energy and great ideas and Assistant Irby. My co-chair, partner in crime, Lucy Nunez, Senior Vice President for Pacific National Bank. And then of course, I also want to thank again our sponsors, Pacific National Bank, US Century Bank, and thank you to Janessa Cavo, who's a Senior Vice President for US Century Bank, for her participation. She was able to also help facilitate a speaker. You know, it takes a village, as they say, right? And as well, of course, our presenting sponsor, Avila Rodriguez, Hernandez, Mena, and Ferry, and Patricia Hernandez and Al Avila. The firm has been so supportive through the years, and we thank you so much. Patricia's actually going to kind of wear two hats today. She's going to talk a little bit about the firm and some sponsor comments, and then she's going to moderate this great group. So kick back, take some time to really hone in on these ladies and listen to these ladies, because I know you'll really enjoy it. And before we start the program, I'm super excited about our economic summit coming up next year. That is our most well attended, because it's a day and a half, huge event. Obviously 2021 is going to be different, but different is good. It's going to allow our creative juices to get going. And with that, I actually asked our chair to come back a second year. He did such a great job. President of Kaufman, Ross and Wealth, Jay Pelham. Jay, I teed it up to you.
Thank you, Gladys. Good afternoon, everybody. And I'm detecting a theme here that I get asked to do this 2 years in a row. Patricia has 2 jobs today, wearing 2 hats. I've got 2 jobs today. I get to provide this group a special sneak peek of where we are with the Economic Summit, and I get to introduce our sponsor and moderator, Patricia Hernandez. I guess I have to behave myself because I see the little recording dot up there in the corner, since we're all being recorded. So look, the Economic Summit, we're excited about it. It's the largest event for the Banking and Finance Committee. We are already well underway with planning it out for next year. We're targeting a date in the latter half of February. We haven't decided the exact date yet, but we'll be firming that up within the next few days. We already have some top-level sponsors, Fiserv and CareerSource. And we're looking to deliver this as a virtual event. And if circumstances permit, we're looking to offer an in-person option for a group viewing, and more detail on that. And again, that'll be subject to whatever the conditions are at the time. So look, we're still looking for more sponsors and looking for volunteers that would like to be involved. So if you'd like to be involved as a sponsor or as a volunteer to help us out, please reach out to your chamber rep, myself, or Gladys. So I'll take off the summit hat and put on my intro hat. So it's a real pleasure to introduce Patty. Part of my understanding, though, is I didn't have to say the entire name of the firm if I introduced her. So I'm going to pass on that. But I'm real excited because I think I've known Patty since before her firm was founded. And I don't mind saying, I think that Al Avila and Patty are my 2 favorite attorneys in the whole world. And we won't tell Al, I think I like Patty a little better. So we're glad that she's here today. Look, I won't embarrass her reading off her whole bio with all her accomplishments. It's a real fortunate event that we have her joining us today. She and the firm have been big supporters in the community, big supporters of the chamber, specifically big supporters of this committee, and we're glad to have her. So Patty, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Jay. Thank you. I am going to wear two hats today. I am going to say a few comments about my firm and how proud we are to sponsor this event. I really love this event every year, and I'm so happy and grateful that we have an opportunity to have it even virtually. I am excited to support the Banking and Finance Committee always. This event in particular, though, is very close to my heart because in my entire career, I have always focused on women's events and the advancement of women in the industry. We are primarily, we represent corporate clients. We do represent a significant number of financial institutions. And in the last 25 years that I've been practicing, I've gotten to know some wonderful, dedicated, and very smart women at the companies and banks that we represent. Women make up a significant majority of the workforce in corporate America. And I'm so proud that as years have progressed, I have seen more and more women move into C-suite positions and board positions, many of them locally being good friends of mine. I'm proud that at our law firm, women make up 60% of our workforce and 50% of our attorneys. At our firm, we aim to create a positive environment for women to succeed. We have a women's group, and it's been created to provide a platform for women's networking events, which we haven't been able to do very many this year, but hopefully we'll do something even virtually, and professional development of the women at our firm. We look to events like this one in the community that encourage and recognize the achievements of women in the community. These types of events serve to support our future female leaders that are not yet in those positions. I know that every year I learn something from the women that are on the panel, and I'm very excited to be moderating this year. I appreciate very much the Chamber giving us the opportunity to support this webinar today, and we look forward to continuing to serve the community and me personally. I look forward to continuing to meet wonderful and smart women in all aspects of business. So I want to go ahead and introduce our panelists today. We have a wonderful group today of women in different industries. So as we go along, I think they're coming online. I'm going to introduce them. Everyone received yesterday an email with their full bios, so I'm not going to take time away from our conversation to talk about their bios, but I am going to introduce them. So we have Samaria Hudson, who's the president and CEO of the Chapman Partnership. We have Deborah Cincolsky, who is the owner and president of Redevco. We have Deborah Vasilopoulos, I hope I did that right, market president for Palm Beach and Broward counties of Iberia Bank. And we have Alina Villasante, the founder and designer of Peace Love World. I know that I have spent quite a bit of money in your store, so I appreciate very much meeting you, actually, even virtually.
Nice to meet you.
So we're going to get started, and we have a few minutes for each of our speakers to give us a quick summary of how their career started. Where did they start and how did it develop to where they are now? Maybe we'll start with Alina. Alina, can you tell us how your career started? I know that you were in a different industry before you shifted and added the dimension of fashion to your repertoire. So could you give us
I'm definitely the person you can say that anything is possible if you really believe in it, because you asked me 15 years ago if I would have been here today. I can't even imagine that this is my life. But yeah, we had an aviation company called High Standard Aviation. We overhauled aircraft engines, the father of my children and I. And in 2008, in June, we had an offer to sell the company. In the meantime, I was subconsciously designing all these little peace, love, happy, black and white t-shirts, hoodies, at the work behind the scenes, our office, was really functioning very well. So I kind of had free time to focus on things I loved also. And all of a sudden, this company, I don't know if you want to know the details of it, but something was missing in the little designs. And a friend of mine gives me a shirt at a party that wasn't even for me. And she made it. It said, "I am love." I took my symbols. I took that. I bought a huge investment in an industry that I knew nothing about. And Peace Love World was born. And no business plan, no knowledge, no anything. And here I am 11 years later. I've gone through the ups and downs and everything, but it's been such a ride. I've learned so much. I've met so many beautiful people. I never, ever imagined that I needed more friends or I needed more people in my life. And it's incredible how, you get thrown this new thing and you're living something that's really it was meant for me. It was meant to be.
Wonderful. Thank you. That's a very, I think, inspiring story for those of us in one industry and are going to shift to a completely different industry. And I know, Samaria, that you have shifted from the corporate world to the nonprofit world. So a lot of, I think, of what we talk about today is really being able to pivot to something different and being flexible in our careers, right? So could you tell us a little bit about how you got started and how you have ended up here at the Chapman Partnership?
Well, first of all, Patricia, I think I'm going to answer that probably a little different than probably what most people think the way I would answer that. I think when I was able to understand my value and understand what I brought to the table, got into a space that I was really passionate about and really understood what I brought to the table, that's when things took off for me. And so for about 20 years, I was a corporate executive working across a number of different industries. But 5 years into that experience, that's when I truly understood my value equation. And then I started working in healthcare. My passion is about helping. My passion, I've always had a spirit of service. And I also, again, understood what my value was. So when I got into healthcare, my career literally took off. I joined an incredible organization called Hospira. They are now owned by Pfizer. I went in as a general manager, and I had a number of different leadership roles within medical technology. That's what we focused on. I ended up in my last role at Hospira. I was vice president running a $500 million P&L before I left. And then I went on to work with another incredible organization called Baxter. And when I was at Baxter, I ran their largest business. It was a $2.1 billion renal business. We focused on peritoneal and home hemodialysis for incredible patients. And so I was there for about 3 years. But the biggest part of my career is when I accepted a role to move to London. I was president at a $2 billion med tech company where I ran all of commercial, strategy, marketing, and also all of research and development. I was part of the executive team that led one of the largest IPOs in Europe's history for a healthcare listed company. And then 2 years in, I said, well, what's next in life, right? I've been so blessed to do some amazing things for some incredible companies. But what I wanted to do was do something a little bit more different. I found myself moving back with my husband to the US, and we landed in Miami, which is an absolutely incredible place. So we landed in an area where I had a new community. I was able to find Chapman Partnership. I think we found each other, and also was able to still leverage my passion. So we can certainly talk a little bit in the program as to how I was able to take all of that incredible experience and pivot that into an incredible organization. But certainly we've been extremely happy in a long career, but it all started with me understanding what my value was and how to articulate my value.
That's a wonderful lesson. And yes, we will certainly talk about how you've incorporated your skills into this new opportunity for you and the community. But I think that, it's really telling that you feel that your career moved forward when you were able to recognize in yourself that the power that you had and the value that you brought. I think oftentimes we women tend to undervalue ourselves and our abilities in the workplace and what we bring to everyone.
Absolutely.
I think too often, maybe not even just in the workplace, I think at home too, but we tend to take a step back and always put ourselves not really recognizing our own value to ourselves. So I appreciate that comment tremendously.
Patricia, I know we need to move on, but that also translates into how we get paid.
Yes, absolutely.
So we'll talk more about that. When we undervalue, we tend to find ourselves getting underpaid or not charging for our services.
Absolutely.
Properly. So but we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Deborah Cincolsky. I have two Deborahs, so I'm gonna have to differentiate with the last name. So Deborah, can you tell us a little bit about how you got started and how you've moved along in your career to where you are now with your own business? And I think you're muted.
There you go. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's a new reality. It really is. Everyone, it happens 10 times during every Zoom.
Not one of my strong points, technology. Real estate development was nowhere in my sights. I literally had come from high school. I was moving forward to become a court reporter and came down to Florida, to Miami. My sister was at her and her husband were on the Air Force Base. And I got an opportunity to stay, so I did. And I was just temporarily working at a dental office when they introduced me to the owner of Redevco, Alan Kolsky, to assist him and his family on, I'll say it, on dog sitting. So I met him and his wife and family dog sitting. And within a short amount of time, I really was fascinated with the business they were doing. And he offered me the receptionist job. And he was very supportive back then in the early 80s of supporting women. And I was fortunate enough to ask a lot of questions and be promoted to the different departments, property management, leasing, construction. And we were blessed to do these 2 power strip centers. We were the first to create that concept that no one in the industry believed in, but we did. And I was finishing one of the major tenant deals when the vice president of the retailer offered me to join the company for the whole Southeast division, and did so in front of Alan. That I never felt underappreciated. I was always paid very well, but it was, wow, the whole Southeast. I hadn't even set the goals that high for myself, to be honest. And within literally a month, I was given the opportunity within 5 years to buy half the company. So I purchased half the company and really became the partner. And as we joke, kind of took over and ran with the deals and the different businesses that we've done along the way. So.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And last but not least, Deborah, how do you, as our only banker on the panel, I am eager to hear how you moved up and what position you started at in banking, or if you didn't start in banking in another industry. How did you get to where you are?
Well, it's interesting. I started at the very bottom, and it was an accident. I needed a part-time job while going to school, and my family had a relative that was running a bank, and they said, well, come work here. So I started as a bank teller up in the Boston area and realized how much I loved it. I mean, there were so many different opportunities and avenues to choose from. And I've always been an achiever. I like to achieve and serve people. So for me, it was a perfect complement to my personality. And I had along the way and throughout my career, I had a lot of amazing managers, including my existing manager that I have today at Iberia. That have really helped me along the way and lifted me up. And as I tried to learn and grow, they provided me that support and helped me navigate my career. And I still think the bank teller is probably the most important job in our industry. They're the front line. They have been up in front and center with this COVID situation. When everyone else is working from home, they cannot. So I have a deep amount of respect for them. And what this has done for me personally and professionally is it makes me realize how important it is to set a path for someone and to provide opportunities for someone as they're navigating their career and trying to drive forward. And so it's I've had a wonderful career. It's been a long one, and I'm very grateful for all the opportunities and experiences I've had.
That's wonderful. I think, the value of mentoring and supporting and sponsoring each other, particularly as women, I think is essential to the advancement of women generally. So to me, that's a very important part of your comments and what you just mentioned, the importance of those people have had in your life. And I was also a bank teller. I loved being a bank teller. I was a bank teller in college. So before I started law school, I was a bank teller, and then I ended up being a banking lawyer. So I really loved that, and I met some great people working at the branches. It was a great experience for me, especially as a young woman in college. Now, thank you very much for all of those comments. We're going to turn and be a little bit more specific with each of our panelists. I wanted to start with Deborah Cincolsky. I wanted to talk a little bit about challenges that you have faced. Your company's been trying to develop the Bahamian Village in Coral Gables, and for many years. And I'd like to know the challenges that you have faced, and how do you feel that as a woman you've been able to address those challenges in a way that has advanced your cause?
Well, I will say this, in the almost 40 years that I've been in the development business, I'm used to bringing forth developments that have objections from residents. This Coral Gables project was the first project that I ever went to a city approval, through a city approval process with 100% community support. It was it's a 20-year project. I'm very committed to it, as you can tell. It was a public-private partnership with this community. The history of the site was the original Bahamians that settled here and worked with George Merrick. So I'd say it was probably this community as the first workforce housing back when George Merrick came to Coral Gables. And along the way, government came in exercising their eminent domain rights and took away a big chunk of the community for the widening of Grand Avenue and South Dixie Highway and a park, and took away their convenience retail, their gas, liquor store, restaurants, dry cleaners. And this community has always wanted back on the property that was left. The county had always promised them that this development would be something that complements their community. And they contacted me to bring in the expertise, the dollars to assist them in achieving their goals. So we did a joint venture, and our original plan was to build brownstones and about 10,000 feet of retail. We were really excited. We went to the city back in 2003, and the commission at that time denied it. And I think it's the first time in my career as a developer working in what I would define in the early days as very much a man's world, that I felt discriminated against. We were just shocked. The community was very disappointed, and we didn't give up. We continued to persevere, and through various obstacles, we got through all of them. And the city commissions for the last two, the current one and the previous mayor and city commission, realized the problem with the site we were always having was other people trying to tell this community what they need and what they deserve. I think part of it was wanting to regentrify, and the original, it's a very strong, educated community. And the gentlemen that originally were the leaders of it have since passed, where the wives have taken over, and we are not giving up. We continue to persevere, and we're happy to say we do have all of our approvals now. And we've already built the community center, which pre-COVID was storing all the historic memorabilia, et cetera, of this area, this community in the Gables. And We have an office here, and we'll be bringing on the retail and convenient gas. Wawa has been approved. So we're excited to create the jobs for the community. We like Wawa as a clean ESOP type operation that offers the jobs, offers stock options, offers health insurance to their employees, and supports a 401k plan with them, a stock option plan with them. So it's been a long, hard road. I'll be the first to admit my partners along the way wanted to always call the race card, and as a developer, not something that I wanted to do. I really had more faith in people, and it was just a matter of having to continually to battle things that were really just wrong, that were the obstacles being thrown in front of us were just wrong. But I was happy that we finally got the right commitments from the city, and they've been very instrumental in correcting that wrong.
And how do you feel that you that your position as a woman, what made you not just give up and say, well, you know, it's I really can't do anything more. I've done my best and move on. I mean, it's been a 20-year adventure for you. So
it's exactly. I could tell you it would have been better if I just cut my losses and moved on. And as a developer, that's what we would normally do. Numbers, numbers, numbers. But it was, I had to fight the cause. It was just wrong. So it really became, from my personal core values, something that I felt I had to stand and help defend and get this project moving forward. And it's about the bigger picture and doing what's right. And that's what we did. And I'm thrilled to be here. We still have people who don't live in the community that still want to try to tell us what should be here and what should be developed. But it's really not for them. Every neighborhood likes what they want in their community and have a right to have it. And it's a very small piece of property as well. It's not like it's 20 acres. So
that's great. I mean, well, even for the fact that you stuck through it, even though it was a small project, and it really says something about your perseverance and I think the perseverance of women generally to do a project like that, even though you face obstacles. Samaria, can we talk a little bit, since you're also involved in the community and you're now in charge of one of our most important, I'm a big fan of Chapman Partnership, and since you're now the CEO of Chapman Partnership, tell us a little bit about how you've incorporated your skills in this very important community organization.
First of all, Pat, thank you for recognizing the value and the work that we do in our community, because it is absolutely critical to supporting what we consider some of the most vulnerable people in our community and our country. My uncle was homeless on the streets of California for years without, certainly my family and I didn't know it. He suffered from mental illness and he roamed the streets of California for many years. So Chapman Partnership, for me, was a personal mission, but also a passion. When I decided to pivot, most people pivot for, I would probably say, 2 reasons. They pivot as a planned decision, what I consider a 411. Sometimes they pivot for an unplanned decision, which is a 911. But I decided to pivot because it was a heart-led decision, because of my uncle and also the work that we do at Chapman Partnership. So I would say that what we do every single day is extremely important. And the biggest thing that led me was certainly my passion, but the skills that I brought to the table, I think, has really helped us elevate. We provide comprehensive services. We have a very strong mission. We have a very strong business model. But certainly during times like this, being able to be innovative, leveraging technology, also while maintaining our mission and not compromise our service, that is something that hopefully I've been able to bring to the table and really help expand the minds of our 150 incredible employees. So I would say pivoting was not a difficult thing. It was certainly a heart-led decision, but the skills that I brought to the table has really helped us tremendously during this time in our nation and in our community. We also are what I consider a very healthy organization from a fiscal standpoint. Just because we have a nonprofit status doesn't mean that we're not fiscally responsible. And so we have done an incredible job in making sure that not only do we maximize every single dollar, 86 cents on the dollar goes directly into the people that we serve and support, but we're also able to ensure that when we come out of this, that we have a very, very healthy income statement and a very healthy balance sheet. So I think what I brought to the table was a comprehensive perspective, but also a love and a desire to continue to support some of the most vulnerable people that we have in our community.
That's excellent. And I think, the fact that you have stepped in and brought that perspective right before this situation occurred, that has really made us all reconsider what we're doing in our businesses and in our community. I think, so that you can emerge a stronger organization. I know not-for-profits are in dire need right now, and it has not been an easy time. So
can I add one other thing too? I do want to share this. We've done, again, an enormous amount of planning, communication, and incredible execution. And across our homeless population, believe it or not, our positivity rate is literally below 1% compared to a community rate of roughly 9%. So that says that certainly I'm not touting the fact that I'm here. It takes a collective effort and good leadership and support from one of our greatest partners, to Homeless Trust, and a lot of incredible partners that are here on this phone, and making sure that we have what we need to keep everybody safe, our employees and our residents. So I do want to throw that out because it has not been an easy effort to do this, but I will tell you, having good leadership, having an incredible team, execution, proactive planning has really helped us at least get through this first period.
And help the most vulnerable of our community, right? Deborah, I'd like to talk to you also about pivoting, right? So the banking industry has gone through tremendous changes and consolidation. You've gone, I'm sure, through many mergers in your career, and now Iberia Bank has merged with First Horizon. Tell us how this will affect you, what you've done to plan for this, and how you're addressing the challenges that come with that type of consolidation.
Sure, absolutely. The most important thing to me is that, I believe if we keep our employees happy, we keep our clients happy, we keep our shareholders happy. So we very much focus on making certain that we are serving the needs of our community as well as our clients. And right now, I would say, we've actually closed our transaction, but we're going through a transition period. So it's really making sure that I am on the front end of the change and navigating the change and helping my colleagues navigate the change that we're going through, and making certain that we have very little negative impact to our clients that we serve. So making certain that we're doing that and working hard and staying in front of our clients constantly, especially in times like these, where they're not coming into the banking centers, they're doing things remotely. So making certain that we are always in front of them, supporting them and helping them and being proactive with them is really the key driver right now. Our industry continues to change, mergers will continue to happen, and I think the most important thing we can do is stay in front of our clients and support them during this time.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to remind everyone, our audience, to please submit questions. If you have questions for our panelists, you can submit them in the Q&A tab. And I'm monitoring that throughout, so I can pose some questions to our panelists. I want to move on to Alina. Alina, you came up with a very something that ended up being very popular. When you were sitting there thinking through that, how did you take the step to say, this is the right idea? How was it that you acknowledged that you had come up with something that was going to succeed? Did you know that, by the way, or did you feel you just felt confident in it and went forward? I think you're muted, Alina. Sorry.
So I felt confident for sure, right? So like I said, I was designing this whole line of peace, love, happy, blessed, chaos. And something was missing. And all of a sudden, when my friend gave me a shirt that she made me that said, I am love, it put made a lot of sense to me. So I traveled the world in aviation. I've met people all over the world. And the common denominator that I find in all people is that we all want to feel loved and we want to love others and to be happy and feel joy. And it's so different than the beautiful things you guys have talked about. But really what I do is about making people feel good and feel good in their own body and in their own mind, right? So it's like dress in a way that you're comfortable in your own skin and that you're also promoting positivity throughout the day, because as you know, we all struggle with our own things. I mean, I don't think anybody has a perfect world. And I always tell people, if you do have one, please call me because I want to know what you're doing. But yeah, so for me, I think I'm selling an emotion. So I took my love of fashion and, you know, my styling, because I really love styling. I consider myself a stylist before a designer. And I took that concept and it really drew in so many people and celebrities because, you know, they're just people too. And the whole world kind of came around the brand, like, what is that? What is that? And it was really just fashion with emotion. So yeah, I think that I knew that we're all starving for something more. We're all starving to just really find that place where we are just the happiest in our life. And it's something that we work on every day. So, you know, just like Samaria does and everybody else does, you know, you're doing something to help others in the way they feel, the way they live their life. And that's my kind of contribution to that.
And how do you, what suggestions do you have for someone that might be considering something like that, having something that they're passionate about and, you know, being on the side of your business, right? You had the aviation
it was the side business.
This was totally different. Do you have any thoughts?
Absolutely. I have a great answer for that one. Community. Because living in Miami, you know, I do have a lot of friends worldwide because of my travels, but if your own little tribe doesn't love what you're doing, you've got to look at it again, because really Miami and this community is what made me realize how great what I was doing was, because the lines of people, my children, when I got the inventory that I ordered, that was a crazy amount of inventory for someone who did not know the industry. We were selling our aviation business and something went wrong in the closing. So I gave my 3 children who were popular in high school everything. I said, you need to sell this because we're about to lose everything on this side. And they sold $85,000 in one trunk show. So the fact that the community was responding like that and people were standing in line for something that I was selling really told me that I was on to something much bigger than just, you know, trunk shows. And listen, it sounds really easy. Like I woke up, I made this, and no, it wasn't like that. But people responding and people wanting it, and all of a sudden people saying, oh my God, you're Alina. And I'm like, I'm just a person like you, but you're giving people something that they really love and desire. So if you can't do it with your immediate people or with your community, then you have to rethink it, because to get worldwide exposure, you got to start with your people and your community. You know, I always feel start small and get bigger and then get the audience.
That's a great advice. I think we all have to look at our communities and see if they buy what we sell.
Even Instagram, post on Instagram.
It's applicable to all of us, right?
Absolutely.
You know, making sure that whatever we're selling,
or service,
community or services or whatever it is that we, or, you know, nonprofit, we need donations, we need support from the community. We need to make sure that we're engaging the community and that the community wants to support us.
Which is very important to give back, by the way. I have a huge, that if you want to get, you got to give. It's just part of the law of the big man upstairs.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to move on to a different topic, but related to your ability to be flexible and move forward. You know, we're going through a time that is unprecedented, right? We look at our businesses and we, you know, every day is a new challenge, right? Making sure that we keep our people, our employees, our customers safe, and we want to make sure that we can continue with our business in the future and emerge from this stronger. I'm going to pose this to each of you because I think the answers are going to be a little different. And maybe we'll start with Deborah Vasilopoulos. How have you managed, and I know the challenges that are arising for the banking industry, because the banking industry is so tied to every other industry, right? And particularly in South Florida, very tied to the real estate industry. And this has shown, differences in the way that people do business. Office space is not really as much as important as it has been in the past. And the challenges that continuing to provide services to the community at the same time as maintaining your loan portfolio and making sure your asset quality stays strong, and that your revenue stay strong, your earnings. Can you tell us a little bit about how you have in your institution kept everyone safe, tried to institute policies that would do that, but at the same time looking towards maintaining the financial strength of the institution?
Sure, absolutely. Well, many of our colleagues, and I think this is true of everybody, have elected to work remotely. So we have a significant amount of our employees working from home, and they're being very, very productive. There was a recent survey that was done within our company that said if you had an opportunity, and we didn't have the COVID environment, but if you had an opportunity to work from home, would you want to do that, or would you rather come to the office? And about 50% said they'd rather continue to work from home because they find it very efficient. And mostly all of our meetings are done exactly this way. We do it through WebEx, and we meet with our clients, we talk about things, and we handle any requests that they may have. For those of our clients that want to go to the banking centers, for the most part, they're going through our drive-through facilities or they make appointments. In this current environment, people are coming into the branches, but they are protecting themselves with masks and social distancing, what have you. And so I will say, when I look back on this period, although it's been a very challenging period for all of us, we've been able to keep things going in the right direction. We've been able to work, we've been able to serve our clients, handle our loan portfolios, handle new requests for clients, and certainly technology. Many of our clients use technology to handle what their daily business needs or their personal needs, so that's working out well also. But I feel we've been incredibly available to our clients. Most of our clients have most of them have our home or our cell numbers. They can reach us on Sunday morning at 8 o'clock if they need to. So we really haven't skipped a beat, and I feel very confident that we've been able to maintain the safety and security of our employees, along with making sure we're serving our clients in the manner that they deserve.
How have you, I think, I also want a little bit of a personal perspective from each of you, if you can. I was reading one of my friends posted on Facebook a little quote that said, had the COVID quarantine not occurred, we would never have the version of you that we have today, right? And I kind of took that to heart because I was going at 1,000,000 miles an hour before all of this happened, and it kind of, stopped me in my tracks. I got to spend more time with my family, and I got to take walks, which was not something that I generally would do. Tell us a little bit about how personally you've also dealt with it. How have you addressed your life in balancing everything that's been required in this time?
Well, I love yoga, so I do a lot of yoga. I really do take time for myself. Being with my family is always a joy. So having more time with my family and having a nice balance there has been welcome. And really being able to touch base with all of my colleagues on a regular basis. They're my extended family, really, so I want to stay in touch with them. The only downside, the thing that's been very difficult and challenging, is not being able to see some really close friends and doing things with friends that you like to do. But for the most part, I feel personally, I feel I'm much stronger. I've been robo-watching some crazy things on Netflix, so that's been fun, and reading. But yoga is really sort of that thing that will keep me literally balanced and mentally balanced, and I practice that quite regularly.
That's great. I think for me, it's also been a level of exercise. I've done more yoga in this time than I've ever done before. For me, it's other types of exercise also that I do, but I think it really has been an enlightening time for me.
Tricia, I want to maybe share the other side of that coin, because me and my team are considered essential. So we spend a good portion, if not every day, at the office. And certainly when the pandemic happened, I have a 2-year-old son, and certainly it was earlier in the year. He just turned 2 on November the 2nd. So I will tell you, I live by the phone. If I was not in the office, I live by the phone at night. Calls at 10, 11 o'clock at night on situations that we've had at our center, being on the phone with the Department of Health, the CDC, the Homeless Trust in the middle of the night, because we've had to work through, particularly early on, certain protocols to ensure that we didn't have a spread or a major issue throughout our center. So I think for me, I've always worked out. I try to work out every single day. I have a treadmill in my office, if you guys can recognize that. But I think for me, it's just realizing what is important. I was always a workaholic. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to ever eliminate what's in my DNA, but more so recognizing what was important and making sure that I celebrated my family and recognizing that they were priority. I remember I got my first call that I may have been positive because I had been potentially exposed, and then having to call my husband to say that I may not come home for 14 days. That broke my heart. I wasn't positive, but that's the kind of life that me and 150 of our incredible team members have had to live since the pandemic happened. But for me, it was really about realizing what was important and celebrating that, and celebrating every moment that I had a chance to be with them.
Yeah, that's very important. And I know that, my husband also has been working throughout. He's in healthcare, and it's really, I think a lot of people have had really the privilege of being able to work from home and continuing a career from home and being able to continue. But there's many people that have had to be in the front lines and not really understand, not really having necessarily all of the protections that we could have in the community with respect to this issue. So I commend you and your team certainly about that. Could you tell us a little bit about what you've done at Chapman to protect the vulnerable, people that you have, that you provide services to, that live at your community, that you facilitate housing for?
Absolutely. First, we have an 800-bed facility stretched across 2 locations in Miami-Dade, our North Center and our Homestead Center. At any given point, we could have maybe about 800 residents on our campus, not including 150 of our incredible employees. So I'm responsible for roughly 1,000 people a day between our stretched across our 2 campuses. So what we've been able to do, and I will say that this has been incredible work across a number of different partners, the Homeless Trust, ourselves, DOH, CDC, is that we started planning in February. The pandemic didn't happen until the first week of March. So we saw a wave coming. So I set up a governance model with my team. Without compromising service, we actually modified our service delivery model by leveraging things like technology. We do virtual case management. Instead of having our residents sit across from our case managers, we were able to go to a grab and go model for our dining room service. We were able to properly distance our children in our family resource center to ensure that not only do they get the support they need educationally, but also providing them with the technology to stay connected to the school system. We had extensive communication throughout the partners that are within this incredible family to support the Homeless Trust and our residents, sharing best practices, but also flawless execution. We send out communications to our residents and our employees on a very regular basis about protocols, making sure they don't get fatigued because of COVID, but we're constantly in communication. So I would probably say the planning, the communication, and then also the incredible execution by all of our partners and our employees. And that's how we've been able to keep people safe. As I mentioned before, positivity rates are well below the county, well below. And it took all of those efforts to ensure that we've been able to do that. And so again, I don't declare victory. I tell my board, we had a board meeting today. I don't tell my board that we are out of this. We're not going to declare any victory until we see a really clear path that we've been able to get all the numbers down across our community. The other thing that we're also doing, Patricia, and I want to make sure that everybody understands, is we have to brace ourselves for a potential new wave of homelessness, right? 30 million plus people are out of work. Several people are going to lose their benefits by the end of the year. Evictions are on the rise. Both are recipes for potentially me seeing more people. We're always here to help. We will always do that. But do expect another wave to come if we don't find ourselves getting this under control and hopefully able to help people get back to work. Chapman Partnership will always be here to support anyone. That's what we do. That's our jobs. We want to do everything that we can to keep people out of the center so they can have their own home and a means to take care of themselves and their families.
That's always been what I've admired about Chapman Partnership, is the ability to to get people out and on their own, I think, and succeeding on their own. The empowerment that Chapman Partnership gives its residents is really amazing to me. And you're absolutely right. I think you know, with the evictions that are going to come over the next by the end of the year, beginning of the year, it's going to be a substantial issue for our community, and we have to be ready for that, and support organizations like yours and the Homeless Trust. Absolutely. Alina, can you tell us, I know that your business has been a little bit different in this environment, because you were already to a certain extent selling virtually, right?
Yes.
Through QVC. So I would like, and your products are something that I think has become more and more needed and popular during this time when we're dressed differently and more comfortably.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about what you've done in during this time, and personally what you've done.
So personally, I really love being at home, and I appreciate my life, my friends, my family, and I didn't realize how much I needed a dog, so I purchased a dog, which I launched the dog line yesterday.
There's been a lot of quarantine puppies.
Exactly, a lot. I've learned that I was living a very fast-paced life, and the time I had was really more special to be spend it with people that I really loved. I was flying every single week. And I realized that every day matters, and life was going by so fast. So, you know, most of my people were working from home, and we're like on the computer all day designing. But the biggest change for me has been the non-travel, which on my aviation business side, because we also still have an aviation business, we bought a new one 2 years ago. It's really suffering. So while I'm gaining it on this side, I'm losing it on that side, because it's just a really hard time. You know, air travel has gone down, I think 90-something%. But really, like you said, my brand definitely emulates the times right now. We started in 2008, which was also a very hard time. So I think when people have to go back to basics and appreciate what really you need and want in life and what its purpose is, I think when life is very fast, you tend to ignore the little miracles. And being in a pandemic, you tend to appreciate the little miracles that you have every day. And you appreciate your family and your friends and your home and your pet. I mean, I've had dogs before, and I've never been as obsessed as I am now, probably because, you know, I take her with me to work and I have her with me at home. I'm filming from the house. The QVC customer loves being in my house. So that's really why they have done so well. So, you know, it's just been, I think, look, there's so much sadness out there that sometimes it's hard to really talk about the beautiful things that we've gained from this. But I think that as a world, it has made us all self-reflect on our lives and what's important to us. And I know for me, that has been a really major shift as what I was doing and what I want to continue doing when this is completely over and whatever our new normal becomes. I think we all have to really self-reflect and say, what is it that we want for the rest of our life? And how do we really want to live? And, you know, how can we serve others and not just think of ourselves more? And, you know, what does going to sleep at night with a happy heart and a clear conscience really, you know, mean? Did you really make the most of every single day? And the quarantine, I call it a world pause. You know, I see it in my children that are from 28 to 33. their life has completely changed. You know, they're not going out, they're not going to parties. If you don't have a significant other, it's just, everything is just so different. And economically, I think many people have boomed, many people have not. So I'm feeling it on both sides, which helps that sensitivity button for those that are really facing challenging times. Because I can tell you that I never in my life thought that my aviation company would just stand still like this, you know, where your only objective is to break even. Okay, all we got to do is break even and we're happy. It's like you hit a home run. So yeah, I think I speak for everyone when I say that.
Yeah, I think, you know, we have to think it has brought a level of self-reflection to our lives. And so many women out there have been balancing so many different things in their lives, right? You know, they've had to become the teachers for their kids, and they do everything in the house, at work. They're working at all times, right? They're working potentially many more hours than they were working before, because they're so, you know, as Samaria had mentioned, you know, on the phone all the time. So, you know, we have to sit and reflect on that for each of us. And you know, for me, it's been very important to be able to maintain, you know, the keep people employed. That's always been, and I'm sure for anyone that has businesses, make sure that people could stay employed. That was a top priority. And so, you know, this has been an interesting time. Deborah, could you tell us a little bit about in your business? Have you continued? I mean, I'm assuming your construction projects have continued, and you have an entire challenge of keeping people safe at a different level. So let us know what you've done, and personally what you've done.
So from a business perspective, we, we continue with our construction and permitting. Actually found that we got more productivity out of government processing of permits, because people were at home and they were focused and moving their files faster. As far as our company, we are an essential business, so we still had our retailers open and properties operating. Internally, we all went remote. We kind of went into what we call our hurricane emergency mode. Everyone has their technology and their access to the computer and ability to keep doing their jobs from their home. I wanted to maintain all my employees. I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to do that. I had a pregnant employee. You know, she was mandated to stay home. She's had a lovely little girl now, and she continues to work at home. We've accommodated her in her schedule and how we request things from her or when we need, because her hours that she's working are kind of shifting in between her dealing with now being a homeschool teacher with her children. But majority of the team ultimately wanted to come back into the office. We organized it to be social distance, sanitary, the spaces, it worked. And we all commit that if we come into our office, what's nice is it's our own building. We don't let anyone in, including the mailman. He signs our name if there's something that needs to be signed. And the team is committed to stay safe and manage COVID very carefully, because if they go out or they travel, they can't come to work. So we all have the same goal. We have fun at work. Our properties, you know, good maintenance. Yes, we've added more sanitation stations, maintenance, more bleaching. I will say that from a perspective of our properties, I have noticed increased homelessness at properties that I never had homelessness at. So that is a challenge we are facing, and how to deal with that. So I'll definitely be reaching out with Samaria. It's a good organization, and how do we help people? We did not rush to evict our tenants. Most of them stayed open. The ones that shut down, we worked arrangements with them. At this point, I haven't lost any tenants. We weren't heavy on the restaurant business. I think that was one of the hardest hit businesses, probably was the restaurants. And I have always been, and I always promote, people need to spend 10% of their budget on small business, whatever that budget is. We need to keep people employed, and I do believe that is through small businesses. And my hope is, as a company, we've restructured how we look at leasing. I don't have a lot of vacancies, but the few that I have, I've taken on a young 23-year-old forgot about what the security deposit, what all the financial requirements were. And really, she's a hair braider, and she's opened her very first business and doing very well, paying her rent on a very short-term lease. If she makes it, I have no doubt she will. She can continue to extend it, but we are really trying to get people back into business. And I think it's an opportunity that lies out there for those, what I'll call corporate employees, that really are slowly getting laid off or see the change in the industry or the impact of the industry. It's their opportunity now to start finding that passion, something they were always afraid to do. So we find leasing activity and new business activity very busy these days. Personally, it was very challenging for me because I've never allowed work to come into my home. When I come home, my technology goes away. Everyone knows me. My definition of an emergency is someone is dying. Other than that, when I go home, it's to be with my family. So if the center catches on fire, that's what the fire department's there for, and that's what we have insurance for. But I'm not running out with a hose to put the fire out. So when we started working remotely, I was having a hard time because one, I don't have an office at home. Two, I'm not used to working at home. So I had to develop those boundaries. I'm used to getting up. My source of relaxation and joy and peace is meditation and centering myself, and yoga. I as well like yoga. But it is finding the balance, and I had to find those boundaries because I realized with many people working at home, they're working way too many hours and the emails are out of control. So it's kind of like we all need a balance. I do believe that COVID has really been an unveiling for us, the other panelists, that it's really finding out what's important to you, and you need to have a balance. Someone once said to me, I want to give you the best of me, not what's left of me. And I think it's a very important thing to keep in the forefront. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of your family, you can't take care of your company and your employees. It is that balance, and letting the staff have that balance as well, and achieving the goals.
Absolutely. We have a question from one of our audience members, and I think it's a great question. I remember, being younger and not having children yet. My kids are 15 and 18, so they're still young, but they're older already. And I always wondered, I looked at women that had kids and were succeeding in business and were succeeding in their positions. And I always wondered, how do they do it? How are they balancing? And the question that we have is, what advice would you give to younger women early in their careers, how to balance starting a family and continuing success? And Samaria, you have a 2-year-old, so I admire you tremendously. And I'm sure your husband did not like to get that call that said, hey, I won't be home for 14 days. Tell us how you're balancing it. And then I'll listen from the other.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm definitely a lot more older than 21. So I've learned a lot along the way. I will tell you, and I actually was just talking with someone about this morning, and I may not be a good representative of this, of the collective, but I literally had to get to a point where I knew my DNA, I was not a person that could balance. I'm 110. I just am. That's not going to go away. That's not going to change. I don't pray it away. That's just who I am. But what I decided to do was go from looking at being a balanced person to more one that sets priorities. So that's what I had to do. I had to shift that scale, and it is a little different. So for me, I could work a 12-hour day, let's say tomorrow, but if my husband and my baby says they need me, it goes to a 4-hour day. So that's the priority. So I never try to do 50-50 because I'm just not good at it. But I tried to understand what my priorities were in life. And I had to shift that scale from work to my family, particularly when my baby came along. So early on in my career, I was bad at it. Quite honestly, it was really about my career. I wasn't married. I didn't get married until later on in life. And I really doubled down on my career and tried to make a lot of those non-traditional, unpopular moves very early on in my career to get all of that foundational stuff out of the way. So when I got to a point where I was married, I was much more elevated in my career. I understood my value equation. I knew how to navigate corporate, so I didn't have to carry all that stuff on my brain home. So I literally had to do a lot of basics along the way to position me where I could, and I felt more comfortable in taking on a more extended family. Now, it wasn't perfectly planned. I don't want to tell you that we decided one day we were going to have a baby. But I will say that there was a lot of things that I was able to do, foundational things early on in my career that allowed me the opportunity to take on more, have my family, still give 110 at home and still give 110 at Chapman. But it took a lot of foundational work to do that.
I agree. I'm very similar to that. I've always said that, you know, that for me, I need to be completely present when I prioritize. Exactly. I have to say, okay, so today, this webinar is the most important thing for me. Planning for this webinar was the most important thing for me in the last day. But, you know, maybe my daughter needed something the day before, and that was the most important thing. So to me, it's very similar. It's prioritizing and getting to a point where what I'm doing, I'm giving my attention to, and doing it as best as I can. We're not all perfect, but, you know, trying to do my best in that situation.
Can I just say,
Alina, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. It took an incredible spouse too. Because what I did realize, and I used to say that, you know, having two people in the family that want to go this way, you could do it. But quite honestly, and again, this is my story. This is nobody else's story. I found that when my husband decided to have more of a flexible life, meaning a consultant, he became a high-powered consultant, which allowed him to have more flexibility to move around as I was doing this way. That was the only way that we were able to go to London and I took a role, was because my husband was a consultant, so he could work anywhere. So one person in the relationship was able to flex more than the other. Because if we were both trying to do this and we were both hard in the way that we saw our lives and our career, I'm not quite sure if I would have gotten to Chapman or, well, we would have still been married because he stuck with me. But I don't know if we would have been able to really, I wasn't able to really climb as high because both of us were trying to climb, right? So it took a husband that realized that having more of a flexible schedule allowed me to do some things in my career. And so I'm so very grateful for that. He's successful with what he does, but the flexibility in the relationship allowed us to be able to have a more fulfilling life on both sides.
Agreed. Alina, could you comment on that same question about advice that you might have for younger women?
Geez, let me see. So I got married very young and I had 3 children, and
which I'm amazed, by the way, when you mentioned how old they are. You look great.
Must be a good camera. You know, I am so sensitive towards women that work with me because I was so lucky to have my own business that I was like a crazy woman. My kids were all in sports. They were 2 years apart. And I was running the aviation business, and I really was like a crazy woman running back and forth. And then I had one person that would help me with practices, and I would do the sports. But having my own business, you know, I would bring them to work with me. I would run back to the schools. So I honestly, you can do it. And everybody's normal is their normal, because I see a lot of women doing it in my office. But you definitely have to work for a company that is sensitive to the fact that you are a mother and things do come up, and family is very important. I'm not going to say family's first. It is family first. It is. But, you know, maybe you don't want to tell your boss that, but I think that you want to work for somebody who knows families first, right? I mean, that's what I say. So when somebody in my office has something with a kid, or somebody has to go to the doctor, they have to pick their doctor, you know what? Do it, because you have to trust that your people are doing their job. And it's got to be like a trustworthy relationship back and forth, because if not, there's just no way. I just don't know how you can work 9 to 5, raise children, and have zero flexibility and no outside help. It's very difficult. And I have a very sensitive button towards that. Yeah. I hope that was an okay answer.
No, it is, and it's everybody's normal is their normal, right?
Exactly.
And it's okay, and it takes, you know, to me, it does take a village. You know,
it takes a village.
I've had a very wonderful husband that has helped me. I had very wonderful parents and in-laws that helped, and so that to me
the only way
was essential to be able to do what I needed to do. Deborah at the bank, what in a more traditional setting like banking, how have you seen, how were you able to be able to, balance your life as you were moving up the ranks?
Well, I am definitely an overachiever, so I'm a workaholic, so I tend to be comfortable in that space, and I do not have children. So I find that when you don't have those obligations, that you tend to drown yourself in work because you love what you're doing and you're passionate about it. But I think for younger women with children, I mean, I would give the same advice. I think you have to create boundaries. You have to create balance. You have to be very intentional about where you're going and what's important to you. And as you suggested earlier, being present in the moment and just focusing on, what it is that's in front of you at that moment. I've been blessed with, I have a lot of flexibility in my role if I need to do what I need to do. But that said, that's not true of everybody. And so it's very, very, it could be very, very challenging. And I feel for a lot of the young women out there that have families and obligations outside of work. It's got to be a huge challenge for them. But I would just say balancing. It's a balancing act.
I think it also, if you're in industries, like the legal industry, as you move up in your career, you have to, be willing to, and I say it honestly, sacrifice some of your own time to do things that will advance your career, right? For me, it's, going to events at night, leaving the house super early because I have to, be somewhere, taking those business development trips. So those are things that might take away time for me personally, but will have an effect on my career. I think too many times, we kind of box ourselves into doing, having the kids and doing the work and not realizing that, you have to be fluid in what you're doing. And I think what the issue of prioritizing to me has always been that important because you have to be fluid. You have to be able to move around. I also had elderly parents that I, took care of. So it really is kind of balancing. And I often thought that my life was like whack-a-mole, right? I was trying to like keep everything kind of in place. That's why I say that this pandemic for me has actually slowed me down because I didn't have to be doing that game anymore, at least for the time being. So Deborah, last but not least, what advice do you have for young women that are coming up the ranks?
So I, like Deborah, don't have children, but in my career, I was the crazy woman. But I wake up at 4 o'clock every morning. And, those long days, I used to get manicures at 6 o'clock in the morning to work my life around my career. Ridiculous. Ridiculous that she actually came and met me. But
it's okay. My appointment was always at 7, so I understand.
Yeah, I am off that treadmill big time. I think the key is I got to the point where I had to learn to be able to say no. It is a complete sentence from taking on too much or saying I can't have it until a certain time rather than having to have so many deadlines on us. So asking for help is one of my first advices and being able to say no without having to justify it. I do believe, my beloved husband always taught me this. He said, the first appointment of the day should be with yourself. Nobody knows your calendar but you. So it's really prioritizing what's important and what your needs are, as well as balancing the issues with the business. But we can't jump into everyone else's crises or timelines because they weren't necessarily as orderly in their planning. Now, obviously, when there is a crisis, yeah, we jump into it in long days, long nights, whatever we need to do. But yeah, I would say prioritization. And once you ask for help, it's shocking how many people are there to help you. We don't have to do it all. We do not have to do it all. And I was humbled when my husband had taken ill. And I think literally before we got married, he was told he was going to die in 2 months. It was horrific. And what is important changed in our day. But I trusted the team. Our company was still there. We weren't there for a year. Luckily, he lived for 16 years. I had blessed 16 grateful years with him. But it is really learning to trust the team. and not try to control everything, because we are not in control. Trust and control go hand in hand. When you give up and truly trust and have faith, everything else kind of comes into play. And I think I've learned that by not trying to control the outcome, bigger things have come my way because I'm limiting them. I'm trying to control them.
Right.
I think that's something to let go of. And you see something better always comes out of every bad, something better always comes. You just have to have faith.
And I think for now, we all have to look for those good things that are going to emerge from this. Hopefully, you know, we emerge stronger from this pandemic, and we stay safe primarily. You know, our people, our families, our businesses, the people that we serve, and the people that work with us. Certainly, that's essential that we are able to keep them safe. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to chat with you ladies today. It has really been enlightening to me. I love this event, even on the internet, even virtually. I love this event, and I'm so happy to meet all of you, and hopefully we'll be able to meet in person soon. I'm going to pass on the baton to Lucy Nunez, who's the co-chair of the Banking and Finance Committee. And I thank all of you, and I thank the audience for participating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for Patricia. Thank you for all our panelists. This has been a very, very insightful. Thank you for sharing your personal experiences and your professional experiences and success and your challenges. Like Patricia said, my name is Lucy Nunez. I am honored to serve as the Vice Chair for the Banking and Finance Committee. And as my day job, I am a Senior Vice President at Pacific National Bank. I also want to take the opportunity to thank my organization, Pacific National Bank, for sponsoring this event today, as well as U.S. Century Bank and Patricia Hernandez's firm, Avila Rodriguez.
Avila, it's fine.
There we go. Again, thank you very, very much for all the participants, for the chamber staff that has always helped us in the preparation for this, for it to go very smoothly, and for us to be able to reach so many participants live. Thank you, ladies, for sharing your experiences and your thoughts, answering the questions. Patricia, you did a phenomenal job with moderating and making sure that everything went by as smooth as an interactive as it did.
With these wonderful women.
You guys are great.
So I couldn't, you know, say goodbye without inviting all of you to join the Banking and Finance Committee. Our panelists, our participants on the video today on the call, definitely feel free to reach out to myself, Stephanie. You could add the information on the chat or send us an email, and we'll be happy to invite you to our Banking and Finance Committee meetings. And that's where these type of events and ideas come out, so that we could create very powerful events that will bring you insightful information. So just stay safe, everybody. Thank you very much for your participation, and we look forward to seeing you in the next chamber events.